Is the bottom in? Are we up only from here? Now, I want to talk about that today with SUI because I think it's possible, right? And so we're going to take a look, a further look at that. We're going to take a look at the SUI ecosystem, all that type of stuff. More on that here in a second. But welcome back, everybody. Like I said, today we are going to be talking about SUI. We are going to jump in and talk about the crypto bubbles though first, just to kind of get an overall sense of where the market's at. We can actually see a pretty green day on the market. I think things are looking pretty good. We've got a couple here that are doing really quite well. Trump actually pumping a decent bit. This one had kind of it's been down a little bad, kind of down only over the past probably several weeks. So the fact that this is coming back a little bit is showing some signs of life. This Telcoin continuing to do well. This is kind of like that XRP beta play that I was kind of talking about. We can see XRP up 10% today here as well. So things looking pretty good there. Also some ones that we talked about on the channel a lot. Virtual's doing well, Jasmine doing well, ICP kind of flat, and then SUI doing okay-ish, right? And so we're going to talk a little bit more about what we've seen on ICP. Honestly, or not on ICP, excuse me, on SUI. Honestly looking pretty good. If we do take a look at the chart here, we can see that it looks like we probably may have found that bottom here, kind of around the like 290-ish range. We could see, you know, if we'll zoom in here. I know the screen's kind of small to see, but we could zoom in here and we could saw kind of a lot of wicks in this little zone here. We'll actually draw it. A lot of wicks though kind of in this little zone here, getting rejected every single time. Again, these are the daily charts, so kind of systematically getting rejected over the course of about 4 days. This was a pretty strong sign of decent support and a reversal potentially coming on here. I mean, since then, it's pretty clear that, you know, there has been a reversal. We might creep back up into this kind of like 378 to like 395 liquidity zone here. So far, we've seen some pretty strong momentum to the upside. We actually have crossed over the Bollinger Band median line, which is good to see. So if we look here, like, you know, possibly a little bit of a reversal coming in for SUI, which would be really good to see. Like I said, you know, kind of the next major point, in my opinion, is probably somewhere kind of around this like 377 to 395 range. We have seen a couple wicks to the upside here, though. So potentially, you know, we could be seeing something similar as to what we just barely saw on the downside, which is kind of some systematic rejection going on here, in which we might continue a little bit and kind of see a little bit of a pullback here. So again, just because we've seen a bounce does not mean that it's up only from here, because, you know, we can see even actively, you know, potentially some signs of some pulling back going on here. So just keep that in mind, you know, if you are trading or, you know, potentially getting in on entering a position, anything like that. With that being said, if you are looking to trade, get it, you know, SUI, Ethereum, Bitcoin, whatever, Solana, all that type of stuff, you can use my link in the description below to BTCC. We are doing a 10%, or I guess they are doing a 10% bonus on first-time deposits, in addition to the extra bonuses of up to $10,055 per user. So if that is something that's interesting to you, they are giving you a ton of money to get signed up if that's something that you are interested in. Also, no VPN or KYC necessary if that's important to you. So moving back to the chart, though, we'll take a quick look here and see basically kind of what we're seeing. So like I said, you know, potentially a little bit of a move to the downside. If we do see a move to the downside, I think probably the hope would be to kind of bounce on this like $3.10 range, just because this had been a pretty strong support prior. And then at that point, you know, we might potentially be seeing some consolidation and maybe like a wedge forming, especially, you know, kind of potentially with this trend line. The other thing that we also should be considering here as well, if I can speak today, is exactly this, right? We can kind of see this like general trend line happening. It appears that we have broken it, maybe. We'll see. You know, obviously it looks like we've broken it, but of course, you know, who knows? You know, we've seen fake outs before. I'm not gonna, you know, dive in trusting everything with, you know, just because we see a couple of green wicks here. So, you know, potentially, you know, we come up, we get rejected. Maybe we kind of follow this trend line down, bounce off this level of support, and then potentially, you know, see another bounce. This to me would show some strength, show some signs of reversal, and potentially could be some good kind of medium to longer term news for SUI. which leads to the kind of the next part of my question, which is what could we see from SUI in 2025? So what we can see before we kind of dive into that is we can see RSI has kind of also come back to the neutral as well. So things kind of looking decent there. So again, coming back to 2025, we will come back to this chart, but for right now, we're going to go to CoinGecko to get some kind of frame of reference of where SUI is at right now, and then where it could potentially go. So a couple of quick things going on here with tokenomics. We can see market cap is 11 billion. It is the 14th largest crypto. The fully diluted market cap is 35 billion, and then the max supply is 10 billion. So, you know, about 3 billion of that is actually circulating. So about 30% diluted currently, another 70% to unlock. Now, the unlocks do come over, I believe, the next 5 years. So it's not like all of this is going to dump onto the market within the next 18 months or so, but definitely a bunch of selling pressure going to be coming onto the SUI chart over the next, long-ish period of time. So just something to consider, not necessarily a bad thing, not necessarily a good thing. It's just a thing that you need to be very careful of, because if there's selling pressure, it will definitely accentuate the selling pressure and push the price lower than what it might otherwise. Now, the other thing I also want to take a look at here is just kind of where we're looking at the on DeFi Llama within like the off-chain or the on-chain ecosystem. What we can see is SUI is in fact the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, is that a ninth largest, sorry, I just couldn't count for a second, is the ninth largest ecosystem. Barachain actually just kind of passing it here. Barachain just launched, and so there was kind of a lot of hype around that launch. So now been pushed back to the ninth largest ecosystem. If we take a quick look here, a little bit messy, we'll kind of go one thing at a time. We can see stablecoins, as I mentioned previously, this is a really, in my opinion, strong kind of like indirect indicator of the health of the ecosystem. We can see that more people are wanting to store their money on SUI, which in my opinion means that that's a pretty good thing, right? People feel comfortable keeping their money there. There's stuff for people to do, at least enough that they want to have some of their money there. Again, 500 million is still a relatively small number, but it's more than what it was, right? We are seeing this trend up. That is the right direction in my mind. So we'll kind of get rid of that, and then we'll move on to TVL. We can see TVL did actually see its peak way back here in, when was this? January 6th, actually, of over 2 billion USD. So that was kind of the peak. We've actually seen it kind of pull back since then. Again, this is totally fine. We can see kind of a little bit of a retrace here. Things just don't always go up only. We can see that exactly here too. We see a peak, a little bit of a pullback, another peak, a much larger pullback, and then a really, really strong run up. So this happens. Not everything is up and to the right only. And so we are about 25% off of all-time highs, which is not too bad in the grand scheme of things. Now, going back and looking at volume specifically, we can see that volume has come back a fair bit, and it's actually kind of leveled out here at around the kind of like $200 to $225 million range. It has obviously pulled back from where we were seeing, 5, 6, 7, $800 million days. I guess 700 million was kind of the top, or the high sixes. So definitely, less activity going on the SUI ecosystem. Again, not necessarily a bad thing. It's just a thing. I think, again, the lows that we are seeing here are higher than the highs that we were seeing back in like middle of October. So I would say this is overall a pretty good thing, or I guess it's about equivalent to the highs we were seeing in October. But still, it's very clear that, higher highs, higher lows over time, which is, of course, what you want to see with any healthy, growing, developing ecosystem. So just something to think about there. Now, going back to the chart, again, kind of keeping some of these things in mind, the big number I'm going to focus on here while kind of keeping this in the back of my mind, because, again, this number is very important, just maybe not necessarily super important if we're going into a bull run this year. Again, this is all predicated on a potential possible continued run to the upside in 2025. So $11 billion, $35 billion we're kind of keeping in the back of our mind. And then we are seeing kind of, that on-chain growth continuing to happen. So in adoption continuing, we can see all these different protocols on-chain that are kind of developing within the SUI ecosystem, which again, of course, is a good thing. So coming back to the chart here, we can see, let's zoom this out a little bit and we'll get some kind of some sense on where we're at. So first thing we will do is we will run a Fibonacci retracement, because we have seen all-time highs, which have then come back into possible cycle or swing lows. So we've seen it come back into swing lows. We'll have to see kind of what happens there. What we're seeing is kind of immediate next steps. If we zoom actually way in, we'll kind of zoom first, and then we'll kind of zoom out as we go. So we can see this this level right here at the 0.5 is what is this, $3.87 ish range. So kind of coming back up again, this is the middle of this liquidity zone that we were talking about. That is probably the first level that we would want to see break. Right now we are currently sitting on the 382, so a level of support here if we're kind of taking Fibonacci's as gospel here. And then going up, we've got the 618. 618, we have seen it have some price action at multiple times in the past here. So this is about the $4.22 range. And then up here a little bit further, again, this is the very bottom, or I guess I should say just below this upper liquidity zone that we charted out a while back when we were actually up here at the highs. This would get us to about $4.72-ish roughly. And then we're going to be back here at cycle highs, which is about $5.35. It looks like I didn't exactly nail the cycle high, or I guess all-time highs, but that's okay. So assuming all of that happens and we do make it back to previous all-time highs, we would be looking at the Fib extensions of essentially how high could this go. Again, since we're in price discovery, we really don't have any idea for sure where it's going to go. And so that's why we use Fib extensions to give us at least some rough idea, I guess you could say, is to where price could potentially go. Now, this is no guarantee by any means. This is just a way for you to kind of gauge some rough ideas of where some targets could potentially be. So the first one would be at the $7.17 range. Second one at the 2618 would be just over $10. Now, again, keep in mind that we do have that psychological barrier of the $10 mark as well. We could see back here that the $5 range did prove to be a very, very strong psychological mark back here. So I'm expecting the $10 range to be no less. And in addition to having a fib extension level here, I imagine that the $10 range will be incredibly hard to break. Again, that's just my opinion, but that's kind of what it's looking like. And then here we've got the 3618 here at the $13 range, and then $15 here at 4236. So that's what we're looking at with fib extensions. Now, if you saw the thumbnail, I have a number that is much larger than all of this, and this is not necessarily based on TA. It's based on kind of market comparables, right? So if we go back out of here and we head back to CoinGecko and we go to the top, like the top coins, there's going to be two that we're going to be comparing against: Ethereum and Solana, because essentially SUI is trying to bill itself as the chain, the layer one of the future, right? 297 theoretical max transactions per second, instant or near instant. I think they have half-second finality, if I remember correctly. All this type of stuff. I mean, this is kind of the holy grail. This is what everybody's trying to do. If we look at Solana, we can see Solana has probably been the winner of this cycle, at least thus far. I think there's a strong argument to be made that XRP is the winner of this cycle. I think in terms of just pure returns, it's Solana, but from like a hype cycle factor, community, all that type of stuff, probably XRP. But anyway, we're going to be focusing on Solana right now. They're about $96 billion, peaking at, I think, like 130 or 140. We'll come back and we'll take a look. We can see here peaking. Oh, this is just 24 hours. Let's go back to 3 months. Yeah, so peaking over 140 billion here. This is when it almost hit that $300 mark, and then obviously we've seen it pull back a little bit. So $140 or 140 million or billion dollars, geez, excuse me, is kind of the one of the watermarks that we're seeing here. Now, going back to crypto or CoinGecko, excuse me, we can see market cap of Ethereum finding highs. If we go back to 2024 in March, almost 500 billion, and then back again here, almost 500 billion, 480-ish billion dollars. So if this is the chain to save all chains, the layer one, all of that type of stuff, then we could expect it to be comparable at minimum to Solana and potentially even Ethereum. Ethereum, flipping Ethereum always seems like a little bit maybe too tall of a task, especially given kind of the development cycle that SUI is in. There's really not a whole lot of people like doing stuff on chain on SUI yet, and so I do think that will be kind of a little bit of a constraining factor to their growth overall. But if we go back to Solana, we could see that their market cap was $140 billion. And looking at SUI, their current market cap is $11 billion. Remember, we're keeping this in the back of our mind. So if we go and we take a look here, $140 billion, we're at, what is this, $3.56? Well, yeah, we're currently at $3.56 on SUI, which means if we were to 10x from here to $35, which is where I got that number, that would put us at $110 billion of market cap. Still just shy of 30% lower than what we've seen out of Solana just recently. This is January 19th, less than a month ago. And now thinking back to the fully diluted market cap of SUI, which is 35 billion, again, if we were to 10x, that would be 350 billion. We've seen Ethereum do, again, $480-ish billion as the market cap. So going through all of those numbers, that puts us at kind of a current market cap comparable with Solana and a fully diluted market cap comparable with Ethereum. Now, again, if this is billed, again, as I said before, if this is billed as the layer one, the solution, all of this type of stuff, 297,000 transactions per second, does not just become theoretical, but actual as well. Some of this type of stuff, then I think we could see something like that happen, and we could see SUI hit $35. Now, again, seeing SUI hit $35 by the end of 2025, potentially a tall task. I think we'd have to see a lot of things go the right way for SUI. 2024 was a pretty strong year for SUI, and we've talked about kind of the SUI team's plan for 2025. They've got a lot of ambitious targets, and so I do think that there's the possibility we could see something similar going on there. So that's kind of what we're seeing, what we're looking at. Again, not financial advice. You need to make your own decisions. You need to kind of trust or like do your own research and trust yourself with your own money, because again, it's your own money. You're ultimately responsible for it. So that's just something that I want to kind of go through though. Like I said, I do think kind of everything would need to go right for SUI, and it would really, really need to do quite well. We did see over a 10x from SUI in 2024, so a 10x from SUI in 2025 is maybe less likely, but still possible. So anyway, hopefully you found the information in this video useful. If you did, please do give me a like and a subscribe, because it really, really does help me out. Also, if you have any comments, questions, concerns, thoughts, feelings, whatever, just drop those in the comment section below. I do try to read and respond to all of those. So if you have anything that you want me to see, just drop them in there, and I'll probably be getting back to you. So anyway, thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.